Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be filming a recommendations video. That is why my shelves are so bare. But yeah, so my friend Tori from Medusa Reads created this amazing, really creative readathon. It's a Tim Burton readathon. Basically, it's based off of like the creepy Tim Burton films we love when we go into Halloween. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about the prompts and what books I recommend. So for every movie there's like 2 prompts, and I'm going to try to give 2 recommendations for each one. I think there was like one prompt I really couldn't, but I'm going to try to give a recommendation, one that I have already read and one that I haven't read yet that I'll probably read for this readathon. So the first movie is A Nightmare Before Christmas, and the first prompt is to read a book with a holiday theme, and I couldn't really find anyone with holiday themes, especially like Halloween ones, but I just chose 2 really creepy books. One is The Raven Boys. I still don't know what this shit is about, and it's on my TBR for this month, but all I know is I'm pretty sure Blue is like a clairvoyant, and I think she has a family of clairvoyants. And yeah, it should be really creepy. I think I read the first 20 pages or something, and it was taking place in a graveyard, so I feel like that would be a really good read for the Halloween season. Okay, the second book is Dread Nation. Again, this has nothing to do with the holidays, but it's creepy, and I don't know if it's gory, but it deals with vampires. Basically, these black people and native people in the Civil War era, they kill zombies for white people in this like apocalypse setting. So I think that's really cool. I fucking love zombies. They are my favorite monsters, I think. So yeah, that should be really good to read as well. So the next prompt in this movie is read a book with a character that goes from evil to good, and I love this trope so much, but unfortunately I haven't read like a ton of books. I haven't read Game of Thrones yet, but I know Jaime Lannister goes from, I don't want to say evil, but just a pure fucking weird like jackass. So, and then he like tries to save people and you know, that whole thing. So I haven't read Game of Thrones yet, but I really need to. I don't know if I'm gonna be reading this next month, but yeah, when I read this I'm gonna have to like clear out my whole TBR, because I know it's gonna take me a very long time because I read fantasy really slow. So yeah, I feel like this would be a good book for that prompt. Okay, so the next movie is Beetlejuice. I fucking love that movie so much. I haven't watched it in so long, and the first prompt is read a book with a haunted place or person. Also, if you guys are wondering why I don't have my hair out, it's because it's hot as fuck. It's like 105 degrees. I live in Arizona and it's terrible. So yeah, that's why I don't have my hair out. But the next prompt is Beetlejuice. This is kind of hard because I don't usually read things with ghosts. I don't know, it just doesn't always appeal to me, but I read The Bone season for the 2nd time this month, or not this month, this year, and I fucking love this book. I'm so surprised people don't like read this more. It's not like as hyped up, but it's by Samantha Shannon, the same author of Prairie of an Orange Tree. And yeah, I love this book, but also sometimes I feel like I'm only reading for this specific character. Like, I'm totally in love with the warden and he's like fucking dreamy. But yeah, I don't think he's in the 2nd book, which is why I haven't picked it up, but I definitely need to continue. Yeah, so this is basically about Paige, and she's a clairvoyant, and clairvoyancy is like outlawed like gravely. Pretty sure, is the penalty death? It might be, or you might become a servant, something like that. But yeah, so I don't want to spoil too much, but that's basically the plot. Outlawed clairvoyancy, and she's a very good clairvoyant. And also her type of clairvoyancy, there's like a shit ton of different ones. It's a very heavy plot, but her type of clairvoyancy is very, very rare. So yeah, it does have ghosts in it. It's not like a heavy part of the plot, but obviously like some of these clairvoyants can communicate with ghosts and actually have like ghosts help them. Okay, so the next book for this prompt is The Diviners, and I chose this because I guess ghosts aren't like central to the theme, but this is basically about Evie. There's a cast of characters, but Evie is like the main character, and Evie has supernatural powers, and I'm reading this right now, so I don't know exactly like why I'm like 100 pages through. It's really good so far, but this is a minor spoiler for chapter 1. Basically play a Ouija board and like a ghost or like a really murderous ghost comes out, and this isn't a spoiler, but Evie is like in a headlong dance with this murderer, and yeah, it's really interesting so far. I really like it. The plot's kind of slow so far, but hopefully it's gonna pick up. So the next prompt for this movie is read a book with a helpful spirit or just a person, and for the first book it's The Diabolic. I have not read this. It has been on my TBR like since it came out, but this is basically, I don't know their names, but yeah, basically this one servant is good friends with the person she's serving. She's like the heir to a throne or something like that, and she's in danger, so this person, I'm pretty sure she's not human, but she has to basically become her, so therefore helping her. Like, I was really grasping at straws with this one, but I need to read it anyway, and yeah, it seemed really cool to read next month. So for the next book, it's Gods of Jade and Shadow. I have not read this yet, but this was a recommendation from Perpetual Pages, so I had to pick it up. They are amazing with their recommendations, and yeah, so basically this book is about Cassiopeia, and she basically, this is set in the Jazz Age, which I actually didn't know, but yeah, so this is Own Voices for Mexican Rep, and basically she is poor and she can't really afford much, so she like cleans the floors of her wealthy grandfather's place, and one day she goes and opens this wooden box, and the spirit of a Mayan god comes out, and she needs to help him get his essence back. I think it'll be super fun to read about the Mayan underworld in October. I think that's perfect for Halloween, and also I need to read more books set in Mexico or just like that have Mexican rep. Okay, so the next movie is 9. I actually have never even heard of this, but the first prompt is read a dystopian. I have 3 actually. So the first one is Red Rising. I've talked about this before on my channel. Basically about Darrow, and he lives in a society where it's ranked by color. Golds are the highest and reds are at the bottom, and he's a red, and his wife basically wants more for them. She's tired of the immoral rule that the golds have over them. So basically events transpire and he is forced to fight for his life and the lives of his people, and yeah, it's just really cool. If you like Hunger Games, you'll definitely like this one. I read this in August, so yeah, August. And it was just really fucking good. I was actually really shocked at how much I loved it. I'm reading Golden Sun this month, so yeah, I hope I love that as much as this one. Next book is Trash YA, which I have to stan. It's Shatter Me, and I feel like a bunch of people have read this, but if you haven't and you like trash literature, you need to read it. Like, I can say full-heartedly this is trash literature, but the character development is pretty good. So this is about Juliet, and Juliet, her touch is fatal, and the reestablishment basically is trying to use her as a weapon, and she has plans of her own. She wants to be her own person, and she wants freedom. Yeah, this is really good. I really loved it. I rated this 4 or 5 stars, probably 5. Like, I stan Twilight, so like, I love trash. What can I say? So the next book is The Fifth Wave, and I don't know why a lot of people don't like this. I read this a few years ago, and I really loved it actually. So yeah, I want to reread this either like late this year or early next year. I have all 3 now, so yeah, I'm really excited to reread this. This is basically about a girl who lives in a society where, well, not a society, basically a world where like these huge storms, earthquakes just rack the earth, and people are trying to survive. People steal food. Like, it's really hard out there, but these storms are there because basically the aliens who invaded her planet are making these storms and trying to just like literally clear out like all of humanity, and it's the 5th wave of like them trying to hurt humanity, and it's her trying to survive, and also I believe she's trying to reunite with her father. I heard the movie was trash, so don't go off of the movie, but I really like the book. Next prompt is read a book with green on the cover. So of course I would have to recommend The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is my favorite book, like I love this book so freaking much. It's about Evelyn Hugo, and she's had 7 husbands. She is from like old Hollywood. She's Cuban American, and it's basically just detailing her lifetime with each of her 7 husbands. It's queer. It's absolutely amazing. Like, sometimes I just can't believe that Evelyn Hugo's not real. That's the kind of character she is. So if you haven't read this, like, please go read it. Okay, so the next book is The Gilded Wolves, which I will probably be reading next month. So all my friends will really love this book, and I don't know much about it. I know it's a high story. I believe they're trying to recover an artifact, but yeah, it's a high story, and I know it got a lot of flack on Twitter because everyone was comparing it to Six of Crows, but I mean, if it's anything like Six of Crows, I'll probably like it. So the next movie is Edward Scissorhands, and the first prompt is read a book with a lonely character. I've mentioned before that I love that like character trope. So the first one is A Monster Calls, which I've read before. I need to reread it, but it's basically about this boy. I think he's like 12 or something. He's really young, and his mom is going through cancer treatments, so it deals with like themes of grief, and this monster visits his bedroom all the time, and he doesn't really know what it wants, but then he realizes he wants the truth and he doesn't want to give it. So yeah, a great, very sad book about grief and just being young and dealing with death. So I think this is a really good read for October because like it has a monster in it, and also very like creepy death things. Okay, so the next book I'm going to talk about is Jane Eyre, and I haven't read this. I've read some of it. I've read like 100-200 pages of it, and I had to put it down because I'm not used to classics. But yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what this is about, but Jane Eyre is basically very lonely and believes she's an orphan, and the person who runs the orphanage is very mean to her, and then she's shipped off somewhere, and yeah, basically just detailing her life. I need to read more classics. I know I do. I've only read one this year. So the next prompt is read a book with a heart on the cover, and this was surprisingly hard for me to do. I guess I don't own a lot of books with hearts on the covers, but the first one is a graphic novel, actually, Bingo Love, and this is so freaking cute, you guys. Like, this is basically about 2 women in the 60s, and they meet at like this church bingo, and they break up because, you know, it's the 60s. And then they reunite with each other when they're older at another bingo. So yeah, this was really cute. I read this early in the year and I just loved it so much. So the next one is actually like a broken heart, but this is Symptoms of a Heartbreak. I got this arc at Y'all West. So this follows Sarah, I believe, yeah, Syra, and she graduates med school at 16 years old, and her life is very complicated, like juggling friends, family, and work life, and she works in the same hospital as her mother. But one day she falls for a patient, so that makes it like 2 times more complicated. If you like that trope, I mean, I don't know, I've never read this trope before, but I watched Grey's Anatomy and it broke my fucking heart, so if it has those kinds of vibes, I definitely will cry. Okay, so the next movie is one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite movie. No, okay, my favorite movie is Moonlight, but my second favorite movie is Sweeney Todd. And so the first prompt is read a book with a musical element or theme, and so I picked this Savage Song. I need to reread this. So this Savage Song is basically about Kate and August, and Kate is a human. She I believe she wants to be just like as ruthless as her father, and I believe they hunt monsters. I don't know, I haven't read this in a while. But, and then there's August. He's a monster, but he definitely doesn't want to be. He can steal souls with a song, I believe. He plays the violin. And yeah, I haven't read the follow-up to this, but I really love this. It was my first Victoria Schwab book, and yeah, I need to reread it. I feel like also it's really good for Halloween because not just the music theme, but you know, it has monsters in it. Okay, so the next one is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know what I gave this, but it was definitely like a 4-star read. It wasn't as good as Evelyn Hugo, but I did like the music element a lot. This is about a cast of characters, but it's basically about Daisy and Billy, and they are in, you know, this band, but they don't start off that way. Daisy is a very complicated character, like most Taylor Jenkins Reid's characters. But yeah, so this isn't exactly YA at all. This is more new adult, but so if you're not comfortable with things like there's a trigger warning for abortion and drug use, so if you're not cool with that, definitely don't read this. But so I don't really know how to explain the plot because it's kind of all over the place in the beginning, but basically Daisy Jones and the Six, like, they're together, and Daisy and Billy, which Billy is the lead singer to the Six, and he really does not like Daisy, but they end up having like a complicated relationship. So yeah, definitely pick this up. It's more character based, so yeah, I loved pretty much all the characters except Billy because he's a dick. The next prompt for Sweeney Todd is read a book with a murder, and I'm picking Throne of Glass. And Throne of Glass is basically about Selena. She was an assassin. She was sent to the mines of Andover as a slave, and basically the crown prince and the captain of the guard freed her, and now she has to take part in these tests to become like the king's assassin basically, and that's basically her only way to freedom, and after a few years she will be free of even that. And yeah, so there's actually like a monster in this book that is trying to kill off these characters who are trying to win, so there's a lot of murder. It's kind of gory, but yeah, it's a good read. I think you give it like 4 stars. It's a good way into a series. Right now I'm on Air of Fire. Hopefully I can complete that. Okay, so the next book is Stalking Jack the Ripper. I've had this on my TBR forever and I still haven't read it, but basically the MC, this is in Victorian London, I think, but yeah, this is in a Victorian age, and she just lost her mother and she wants to really understand death, so she trades her embroidery needle in for a scalpel, and yeah, it's her just trying to understand death and doing these autopsies, but she gets drawn into the investigation of Jack the Ripper, so obviously there's going to be a murder there. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I think the covers are like absolutely amazing, and this could also go for the prompt with green on the cover, so yeah, super excited to get to this. So the next movie is Corpse Bride, and the first prompt is read a book set in another world, so I chose A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This was my favorite book of last month. It's amazing. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It follows Harper, Gray, and Prince Ren. Gray is Prince Ren's bodyguard basically, and so Harper, one night she sees this girl getting attacked. She tries to step in and things aren't really what they seem, so she gets transported to another world. So basically Prince Ren's kingdom was cursed by this witch and his family was murdered, so it's him trying to break this curse on his kingdom by falling in love. And Harper is just an amazing character. I love her so much. I love Gray as well, and Prince Ren. I love all of them, but Harper is a strong female character, and there's also a rep for cerebral palsy. Okay, so the next book I don't actually have yet, but I'm going to read next month hopefully. It's God's Grave, the sequel to Nevernight, and yeah, that's on my TBR for this month. So it's basically about this girl Mia, and she's like training at this place where it's like an assassin's cult because she wants to get revenge on who murdered her family, I believe. So yeah, I really need to read that. I don't want to skip months because then I'm just gonna forget the whole story. So the next prompt is read a book with forbidden love, and I love this trope. It's probably my favorite romance trope of all time. The first book is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is a new adult book. I fucking love this book so much. Jocelyn recommended this to me. It was my first new adult book ever, and this basically follows Jordan and Pike. Jordan has his boyfriend, and her boyfriend pretty much ate shit. He can't hold a job, and he didn't pay rent. He couldn't help her pay rent at all, so they have to move into Pike is his father's place. But basically something happens, like she starts realizing that her boyfriend isn't shit at all and he's a bum, and yeah, so, and she kind of starts having feelings for Pike, and it's a healthy age gap relationship in my point of view. But yeah, definitely it's a steamy read, so definitely pick this up if you like steamy reads. There's a lot of smut in it, and it was just really good. And the next book, I actually have no idea what it's about, but it's Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I don't have it yet. I really want to read it. My aunt said it was Forbidden Love, so yeah, I just love Forbidden Love so much, and I want to read all the books. So the next movie is Dark Shadows. I have not watched that yet, but the first prompt is read a book with a vampire. I had trouble with this prompt. I could not find many, but obviously there's Carry On. This is, I read this last month. I gave it 5 stars. It's about Simon and Baz. They're roommates. Simon, it's hate to love. Simon absolutely hates Baz. He's not scared of him, but scared of what Baz will do, because Simon thinks that Baz is like some evil vampire. But yeah, it's basically a story of love and fighting monsters and like all that. So yeah, it's really good, and Wayward Son comes out in this month, I believe. Okay, so the next prompt for this movie is read a book with black on the cover, and for this one, I don't know if it's, yeah, there's some black parts, but House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig, and this is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling by the Brothers Grimm, I believe. And yeah, so this is a really good book so far. I'm only like a few pages in, but it definitely shows promise. It's basically like, if you don't know what 12 Dancing Princesses was like me, it's basically 12 rivaling sisters, and basically the talk of the village is that this family is cursed, and someone or something is like slowly killing them off. So yeah, it's really interesting so far, and I really love the writing style. It's very creepy, and it only gets creepier. So the next book I have yet to read. I read the first couple of chapters, but Labyrinth Lost, and I really loved what I read. I think I had to return it to the library, so I just picked up my own copy. But yeah, this is basically about some brujas, and this specific witch in general doesn't really want powers. So basically her initiation with her ancestors, she casts a spell to like basically get rid of all of her powers, and this is something so controversial because why would you want that in her family, at least? But yeah, and it goes horribly wrong. So she goes on this journey with I believe one guy that she's kind of romantically interested in. So yeah, it's just perfect for Halloween. Like, it's witches, and like, where can you go wrong with that? Okay, so the next movie is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and the first prompt is read a childhood favorite. So I'm gonna read Summer of the Monkeys. This was like my favorite book when I was growing up. I had to read it for class, and I just loved it. So this is about Jay, and he goes out one day and sees a tree full of monkeys, and he realizes that the circus has like accidentally let these monkeys escape, and there's a price for each of them, and his family really needs money, so he needs to return these to the circus. Yeah, it was really good, and this began like my obsession with monkeys and apes in general. And the next book, I don't really have either, but it is Spiderwick, and Spiderwick was so good. I love it so much, and I recently like realized it was by Holly Black. But yeah, you guys know what Spiderwick is about, but I want to get the box set so bad. So the last books I'm going to recommend for this readathon, it's read a book with purple on the cover. I have 3 of them, 2 I've read and 1 I haven't. So the first one I had to recommend is Radio Silence. Like, it's not a Delaney video unless I mentioned Radio Silence. But yeah, this is about a girl and Frances is obsessed with this podcast called University, and no one else really, it's like an underrated podcast, and she befriends this boy named Aled, and she realizes that he's the creator of this podcast, and this is about friendship. It has no romance in it, which I usually would hate, but this book is so freaking amazing. Like, if you haven't read it, you need to. Next is There's Something About Sweetie by Sanja Menon, and amazing fat rep, just an amazing book. I read this last month, and yeah, just fell in love with it. It's about Sweetie and Ashish, and basically it's about Sweetie finding herself, and Ashish is just very like just falling for Sweetie, basically. So yeah, this is a great tale of just accepting your fatness, telling others that, you know, I'm okay with being fat, and I'm confident that way. And also just the relationships between Ashish and Sweetie is just so freaking wholesome. So the next book I actually want to read, I haven't read this yet, but it's called Sawbones, and this doesn't have the greatest score on Goodreads, but I need to read a Western like so bad. I love modern westerns. So this is about a woman with she's a doctor, which is obviously kind of controversial, and she also has a bounty on her head, so she heads west trying to run from the law and just, you know, help people. And that's really all I know about it, but yeah, I need to read this. It's been on my TBR for a while. So yeah guys, that is it for my recommendations, and I will leave everything about the readathon down below, as well as the creator's channel. This was just so creative, so thank you so much to Tori for making this readathon. So yeah guys, that's it. I will see you guys later.